Hello everybody, my name is Mike. Welcome back to Splits and Gigs, or if you are new, welcome. Today we're going to go through a leg day at the gym. Yes, I am doing a face pull, but it is good to get the rear delts working hard because a lot of us sit down and our posture gets not so good, so working the rear delts helps with that one. Just a disclaimer also, I consider myself to be fairly well educated on the gym, but I'm not a personal trainer nor a physiotherapist, so any advice that I give, take with a pinch of salt. So yeah, as I'm doing some squats, just give you a quick background on my gym experience. I've been lifting for around 15 years, believe it or not. That doesn't massively look represented in my physique. But as I'm getting back into running, I'm trying to find that balance between not getting so massive that I'm weighed down and my times are compromised. But I am currently on a bit of a bulk to try and put on some mass. Just getting some RDLs in. I think my legs are probably the weakest part of my physique. I'm 6'2" and naturally, is it ectomorph? I forget the characterizations, but yeah, I'm fairly tall and lean naturally, so I have to work quite hard to put on bulk. Doing a few shrugs and I think some calf raises in a minute, just because why not? Is this controversial, taking up the space of a rack? It was a fairly quiet day, so not so bad. Also, I'm very open to recommendations on things like form. As I say, I consider myself to be fairly well informed on most things about the gym, but there's always room for improvement. And as I said again, I have not studied this. I've just absorbed a lot of YouTube videos over the years. It is a fantastic gym, this one. Very lucky to be a member here. This exercise looks fucking insane, but the goal, as you can probably see, is to work the neck. In a minute I go on my side and on my front to cover all different areas. Some of the cable exercises that work your neck can be a little bit dangerous, so it's about trying to find safe ways to work muscles. There's also a crazy face contraption that you can get and attach to a cable, which is a good way to work your neck, but this gym doesn't have one of those. And yeah, just a side note, I have been getting a bit more into Formula One in the last year or so, and all the F1 drivers have ridiculously wide necks because I think for their sport, it's important for things like shock absorption. But I do think personally they look a bit strange sometimes. Their necks are absolutely gargantuan. So yeah, bit of a funny looking one this, but you get a really good neck pump. And personally I think this is one of those exercises where it's much more important to go light and go for high reps, because if you really slow it down, you can get a good sort of mind muscle connection, and if you're just flying through the reps, other body parts will take over, so potentially your traps, or if you're hurling your whole body into it, then maybe your obliques and your abs will be working as well. So yeah, this is a good example of one to take nice and slow. I think I'm probably doing about 12 or 15 reps here, and yeah, it seems to be a fairly personal decision on most other exercises, what people like to do for rep range. I've always been generally in the lower end on sort of, I'd say 4 to 8 reps when it comes to the compound lifts. But my emphasis is trying to get stronger, I would say, and I think the consensus seems to be, especially for those compound lifts, that is maybe a good way to go, but there doesn't seem to be a right or a wrong. This is by far my least favourite side to do on the neck. lying on your front feels very uncomfortable, but it's important to hit all different sides. Yeah, now on some hamstring curls. I'm not really sure whether I prefer lying down or the seated versions, but it's been good to see my numbers going up a bit on hamstring curls lately. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think the hamstrings comprise more of your legs than your quadriceps do, just as your triceps do your arms in comparison to your biceps. So I'm trying to put a bit more of emphasis on the hamstrings to try and build my legs up a bit. This one I can't actually remember the name of, so do let me know. But I really enjoy this one for hamstring and glute activation. Normally for a warm-up set I do it without any weight, but then grabbing a plate in the later sets is a good way to add some stress onto the muscles. I really like doing a slow contraction on the way down. Is it called a contraction? Who knows? But yeah, just to get that really good stretch on the hamstring and yeah, activating the glutes on the way up. You can never do this one too slowly. It's all about control. So here we go outside. This is a really good facility to be able to access. The weights that were left on the sled were way too much, so I decided to take some off. But yeah, in my opinion, I see these kind of exercises as a bit of a bridge between weightlifting and cardio, because you're sort of incorporating the two of them together. I suppose for people who have very physical jobs, this is the kind of thing that you might be doing on the day-to-day, but it's nice to have the option to do it at the gym. In terms of the sled pushing and pulling, I generally tend to prefer to go heavier and end up, shifting a bit slower. I'm not training to be a sprinter, so the high speed is not so essential for me. But I do like this as a warm-up to running because it does get the blood in the legs. Okay, if you've skipped to this point from the start, this is the treadmill section. So yeah, a few things to say as I'm just sort of warming up. Treadmills are a lot softer on your joints just because they have that sort of cushion. So as much as I love the park runs and getting out and about, I think the majority of my running is going to be on treadmills probably. So yeah, I've got my Altra trainers. I'm not someone who's massively techie on gear or whatnot. I just I think an ad popped up and I got them, and then people started telling me that they were decent. So yeah, they've got a nice thick cushion. That seems to be how sort of running trainers are going these days. And yeah, on the treadmill, a couple of changes I've made recently is I saw somewhere, if you put the incline, I think most treadmills will normally have, 12% is usually the maximum incline, or maybe 20. But if you whack the incline, I usually do it on about 1.5 or 2% because supposedly it is a bit gentler on the joints. I would be interested to hear some input in the comments on this, but to me, that would be because you're striking the ground slightly sooner. If you're running down a very steep hill, it seems like sort of common sense that that's going to be really heavy on your knees because that's where the weight is loaded. But yeah, I'm somewhat waffling there, so please give me your input on that one. And even if it isn't soft from the joints, adding a bit of an incline is going to increase the difficulty, so that is going to progress your training. In terms of speed and distance on the treadmill, I think around 11 or 12 kilometers an hour is my comfortable running speed. I can't remember whether I was on 11 or 12 here, but that is kind of what I'll crank just to get in the zone. If you haven't seen the previous video, over the last 3 or 4 years, I've gone through periods of running a lot of, a 5k sort of every weekend, but not a huge amount of training in between. I did manage to get a few 5Ks under 20 minutes, which was a great achievement, so I was very happy with that. Although my times have slipped back a fair bit recently, so I'm trying to build back up to the 20-minute mark. I always find it surprising on treadmills where if you run a 5K, you want to be running at 15 kilometers an hour on the treadmill. Maths is not my strong suit, but so 15 kilometers in an hour, which is 60 minutes. If it's a 20-minute 5K, 60 divided by 3 is 20 for the 20 minutes, and 15 divided by 3 is 5 for the 5K. So yeah, if you're working towards a 20-minute 5K, you want to be running at 15 kilometers an hour. So today I ran 1 kilometer. The plan is to gradually increase the speed and the distance over the next few months. This was filmed a couple of weeks ago, so I've already made some good progress on that. And my park run times are coming down, but I won't spoil that because it will be in the next video or a later video. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you guys do on the treadmill. I don't particularly make much use of what's on the screens. There was a period where I was doing some biking on a Peloton, and you can set the screen to show you're in some exotic location, which is fun, I suppose. I really enjoyed the classes on Peloton. I found that increased my work rate tenfold. And then music, again, is something else I've dipped in and out of when running. I'd say performance definitely increases when you're listening to music, but I think the advantage of running without music sometimes is that you don't feel so lost without it if your headphones run out of battery, which happened in my last park run. So that was a good example of why running without music I think is good sometimes. It's also worth noting that I am not sponsored by Huel, although that was very clever marketing from them, because you see a lot of their t-shirts around. They give out those free t-shirts. Yeah, I'm not sponsored by them, so I'm not going to talk about them too much until the sponsorship comes in. While we're waffling, I've also had a haircut since this video. I achieved the ultimate top knot, so I feel I've done all I need to do. And as the waffling comes to an end, so does that 1 kilometer. A nice way to finish out a workout. I feel after the work outside on the sled and the moderately heavy leg day, I do feel that running on the treadmill is quite a tall order, because you're not exactly fresh. But yeah, there you go, 1 kilometer in just over 5 minutes. All right, guys, just out of the shower after that workout. It was a tough one, went a bit lighter just because it was the first session back in terms of weights, just because I suppose slight increased risk of injury when it's the first one back for a while.
I forgot to say goodbye, so I wrote you a song instead. Lots more running and gym content on the way. Thanks for watching, and I hope you stick around for the journey.